Hello, welcome to MapleWoodian.com podcast. We have on the phone Beth Daugherty, School Board President for the South Orange Maplewood School District. How are you doing, Beth?
Just fine, thank you.
Now, how long have you been president? I know it's been a few years. You've racked up some time in the office.
A little over 2 years. It was 2 years this past April. So I became president 2011. And then my term is up this November.
Right, now, let's talk about that first thing. The school board elections now will be in November. We've written about it. Excuse me. All sides approved it, or at least majorities did. Are you a fan of this, and what do you think it'll do, good or bad, or will it be that much of a difference?
I did approve it. I think it's good to try to get more people in both towns aware of what's going on in the schools. It makes for a more challenging candidacy in that you have far more voters that you need to educate. The fact that this is a gubernatorial election, there'll be many more voters going to the poll. I think that's a good thing. In the past, if you get 3,500 people turning out to a school board election, that was a good turnout. That's fairly pathetic. So, it's now our responsibility as candidates to really try to educate as many people as we can in both towns about what's going on in the schools so that hopefully they will choose to vote for the Board of Ed candidates when they go into the polls in November. The other thing it did is it gave the school board the authority to approve our operating budget as long as we were within the caps set by the state. The Board of School Estimate is still responsible for our capital bonding approvals, but I do think it's also important that the school board really own the school budget, just like the township owns the town budget.
Right, and so you're up for re-election, but also Lynn Crawford and David Giles, but Lynn is not running again, correct?
Correct.
Right, and we had interviewed her about that, and then so you'll have an open seat. Does this save us any money, not having a school board election in the spring?
Does. We don't have to pay for the special election in April. We're now part of the general election. So the original estimates, I think they were around 40,000. I don't have those numbers crisp in my head, but it is a money-saving thing as well to move the election to November.
Now, we just had a school board meeting on Monday. What transpired there? You said goals were set, and there were some that were a little different this year, or something was added. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so each year in this time during the summer, we adopt our district goals for the following several years. Most of the goals for this next year actually were set last year. We try to do it a year ahead, just, for budgeting and planning for the administration during the budget season. So the goals we just passed are for 13-14, 14-15, and 15-16, even though they're not that many milestones for 15-16. We've been discussing them all summer with a thorough review last meeting in July. Then the two new things, actually, that were added at the meeting last night. One was under Goal 1, which has to do with student achievement, which was talking about reviewing, making sure that this year we begin a review of the entry criteria to the different courses throughout the district with an eye towards, making sure that kids have the opportunity to take rigorous courses when they are up for it. So it's just reviewing the entrance criteria to a lot of the course offerings. Then another one in Goal 4, which has to do with resource management but includes technology as well, is we added a whole new objective, and the idea behind this objective is to leverage the technology that we're bringing into the district in order to prepare for what's called the PARC assessments. Those are the new standardized tests that we'll have to give next year, not this school year, but 14-15. And those tests have to be done online. And so the budget for this year, we included $475,000 to start bringing in the equipment that we're going to need next year for the testing. We're selecting to use Chromebooks, which are compatible, with those assessments. So we have 1,000 Chromebooks that are coming in district, right now. They'll be distributed across all of the schools that are involved in testing, which is pretty much every school except for Marshall and the South Mountain Annex, because it's grades 3 through 11. And we're going to have teachers, one or more teachers in each school hopefully sign up to do pilots for one-to-one computing. And one-to-one computing is where every student has a computer, so every kid would have a Chromebook. And we had 2 pilots this past year, one at Maplewood Middle School and one at South Orange Middle School, that really had a lot of positive results from it. So what's new in the district goals is to leverage the fact that we have this technology coming in-house. We will not be using it for testing full-time yet. There'll be plenty of time to use it for instructional purposes, so let's expand the pilots and have at least a pilot in every school to really start looking at what are the advantages of one-to-one computing. And then a milestone for next year, the 14-15 school year, is to really do what boils down to a cost-benefit analysis of, based on the experience from these pilots, what are the instructional benefits, and then what would the additional costs to the district be. I mean, there would be some savings, but there would also be additional costs, both in personnel and in technology.
And would that be something that would be added to the budget, or would it something that parents would have to purchase these?
No, this would be added to the budget, right? To have that kind of analysis done prior to the development of the 15-16 school budget, so that we can start making a decision of, whether or not we think one-to-one computing is a good direction for the district to go in its entirety. No. We will have played around with pilots and, seen how it goes. But there would be costs associated with it. The instructional benefits that we've seen so far have been really exciting, so it's just really to begin that analysis to see where we want to go with this.
Now, with the new elections, you still have your budget year as the same year, correct? Or is that changed?
Correct.
No.
The budget year is still. The only time that would get messed up is if you wanted to go above and beyond your allowed cap, which includes the different allowances that you get. So if you wanted to ask for more money than the state has said you are entitled to use, then your budget cycle gets a little screwed up, but we have no intention of doing that. So.
And now we also look ahead, we still have the teachers' union contract being negotiated, correct?
Yes.
Where does that stand, at least as much as you can say?
Yeah, well, we're currently in mediation.
Right. They had filed for an impasse?
Yes, Samantha filed for an impasse.
That sent it to mediation?
Correct. Samantha filed for an impasse in May. So then we are in mediation. We had one session with the mediator over the summer. We were scheduled to have a second session at the end of July, and the mediator actually had to cancel. She was sick. So we have rescheduled that session for the end of September, was the first.
And how did the one session over the summer go, in your words, in your view?
Yeah, it was a first, an introductory session.
And the contract had ended at the end of June, correct?
Correct, right. June 30th.
So it's not real unusual to have a contract expire and then negotiations continue, but obviously it's a concern to people when it deals with the teachers. Are you in the negotiating group?
Yes. Sandy Cream is the chair, but I am a member of that task force.
And what is your thought on sort of how long this might take and if things are good or bad?
Well, we really, I'm not at liberty to say much.
I understand.
I remain optimistic in the mediation. We've really, what I consider our first really big mediation session is coming up. So, like I said, the first one we had, it was a first mediation session, but I think this next one, will be even more productive. So I remain optimistic. Certainly hope we can get a contract in place so that it's not, this black cloud hanging over everybody's face. There's so much on everybody's plate this year that we really just need to be able to focus on the work ahead of us. Yes,
and I know in the past the teachers union has taken to some outward protests that I've criticized, leaving bulletin boards blank and wearing T-shirts for the union, and some have even told children that the school district's being unfair. And so, I know when it drags on, things like that can occur. But I won't ask you to comment on that unless you wish to.
Yeah, no, I'd like to keep this positive because, like I said, I'm optimistic.
That's good. Now, the other, you talk about news this year, the other news obviously is Brian Osborne had all but left. He had gotten a job in Ann Arbor. He was contemplating. In the end, he decided not to take it. I guess he said for family reasons, among others. But the big hit, of course, is that the state salary cap will reduce his salary immensely from about $220,000 to about $162,000. Or close to that?
It's actually $177.50, I believe. It's $175 based on the size of our district,
right?
Because we're over 6,500.
And I don't think.
And then I think you can get another $2,500 because we have a high school in our district. Because there's school districts in New Jersey that have superintendents but no high schools.
Right.
And then there's also something we can put merit goals into his contract, where I think 3 of them can be quantitative, 2 of them can be qualitative, and they each have a maximum percentage that can be earned if they're, entirely met, for a cumulative total of 14.99%. So that's a decent amount of money. However, it's not pensionable. It's truly just a bonus. It doesn't add into his base for the next year. It's not pensionable. It's really just a one-time bonus, and then you would reset those merit goals for the following year, and those merit goals have to be approved by the county superintendent. So that is one thing that, if we get to a point where we're renewing his contract and he agrees to stay, that we can discuss merit goals. But those are future conversations.
It would seem that the salary will not get up to the 220 level, though.
No. I think the highest it could get that way is hovering right around 2.
And so the fact that he even was looking for another job. Now, he's been here, I believe, 6-7 years. And
he came basically right around the same time I did. He came in May 2007, and I joined the board in April 2007.
So that's about 6 years. He's gotten steady increases as he deserves. I think I've always been very supportive. I think most of the towns have been very supportive and not questioned his need to make more. And the district also helped fund part of his education, right, for PhD.
Yes, he got reimbursed for some of his tuition.
So the fact that he might leave after 6 years, 7 years, would maybe not be that much of a surprise, just because he might want to move up to a larger district. I know the Ann Arbor district was larger. But either way, how much do you see this salary cap limiting the options the district has to try to either keep him or get a new superintendent of value?
I think the salary cap is huge. It's very limiting. I personally hope Brian is willing to stay. I would love to see him stay. I mean, in his statement of why he was not going to Ann Arbor, in addition to family reasons, there was also this belief that there's, more work to be done here. We're well on our way, but there's more work to be done, and kind of like seeing a lot of that work through. So I would love to see him stay. The salary cap is a huge hindrance, whether it's getting Brian to stay or whether it's hiring a new superintendent. It's ridiculous to think that somebody who's literally working, practically 24/7 in charge of the whole district, and it's a district where, we have a lot of work to do. We're really trying to prepare every single kid for college and career, and we have, a huge diversity of learners in our student body. So, it's challenging work that we are demanding of not just our superintendent, but our administrators and our teachers. So to put the person in charge on a cap where, work as hard as you can and get the greatest results you can and never get a raise is somewhat ludicrous in my mind.
And it wasn't, and I believe this cap was not voted on by its legislature.
No, it was an executive order.
Yeah, which is even more amazing.
Yeah.
That the governor, who I think we looked at his combined income, is with his wife's income. He actually makes less than the superintendent. I think his salary, I know, was under $200,000. But
right, well, I believe he set the base at his salary, and then you can get, like Brian can get an additional $10,000 because he's our district is over 6,500, he can get more because there's a high school. But I think that baseline salary for superintendents might be the same as the governor's salary.
But it also did not indicate his wife, I think, and his combined income was something like 500-something thousand.
Right.
But he's also go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I'm hopeful that the salary cap won't be here forever. It was an executive order, so maybe there's a hope that at some point in the future, doubtful that it would be by next June, but maybe in the next year or two, maybe 3, but hopefully the fewer, that maybe we can see the salary cap go away. I don't know. There's widespread dissatisfaction and frustration with the salary cap by districts across New Jersey for the very reason that when you lose your superintendents, it's very difficult to get somebody else for, when you have the salary cap, depending on what your needs are in your district. So, I'm hopeful that the salary cap is not here forever.
Right, and it would seem
we'll have to deal with it next July 1st. I do think we'll have to deal with it then, but...
And his contract is up at the end of the school year. Now, let me just get this. If he did take this Ann Arbor job, how could he get out of his contract? There's a clause?
90-day
right, there is a clause, okay.
Clause in his contract. So,
that's pretty standard, too, right?
90 days written notice, and then,
And that's a pretty standard thing for those who might wonder.
It's negotiated. It's, you can make it 60, 90, whatever. That's part of the negotiated elements of a contract.
And I would think Mr. Osborne, knowing his insight, probably realizes the cap might well be removed down the line. So if he has reasons not to move, and he realizes it might be worth staying if it might be removed and he can get along for a couple of years without it.
It's a big gamble, and I don't want this to be misinterpreted.
No,
secret insight that the cap's going away. I don't. I just know that there's a lot of frustration throughout the state.
Yes, I've heard from elsewhere as well.
School boards a lot. We get information about various districts, up in arms about losing their superintendent and not being able to find somebody else because of the salary cap, or that it is very limiting. So lots of early retirements of superintendents, or they're leaving the state. Their contract is up and they leave the state, or they go to a job that's not a superintendency. They do something else. It's just brain drain. It's a shame.
Any word on our new principal for the high school? Has that been just started yet on a permanent replacement?
So Brian reported on that last night. We are in the process of a national search. We have requested the Association of Principals and Supervisors they offer a service where they come and they hold focus groups to develop a profile of, what we're looking for in the new high school principal, and then they will bring a list of candidates that should be considered to our interview committee. So that's exciting. Those focus groups are going to happen in early September, so we can get this well underway and really get a good pool of candidates nationwide that fit the criteria we're looking for. And in the meantime, Kirk Smith is the principal at the high school.
He was an assistant
for the whole year if we need him. He'll step down when a new principal is hired, but he has agreed to stay on for the full year if needed.
And how much does it impact the high school to have an interim principal for a year, or not really? I mean, he's from the high school. He's been working there as an assistant, correct?
Correct.
He knows
he was formerly the principal at South Orange Middle School, then he was a principal on special assignment, basically filling in, doing the duties of an assistant principal at the high school. So he's very familiar with the building. I think the high school is going to be fine. We have a vacancy of an assistant principal, but Janice McGowan, who is a former assistant principal who retired, has come back on an interim basis to fill that spot. So while there are some vacancies, they're filled with people that know the building, know the teachers, know the kids. I think it'll be a smooth year.
I'm very
looking forward to finding a new principal for the high school. That'll be a great day when that happens. But
there are no salary caps on principal, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But in the meantime, I think the school is very well covered.
Yes, I'm sure it is. The other question now, and we'll let you go. We're talking to Beth Daugherty, School Board President. I appreciate your time with us. Also, the new school calendar is out, and again, they're having holiday vacation and April vacation, but only 2 days in February. And then, so there's a little bit of more of an early release as there was last year. But my little pet peeve, as people know my website I've seen, is when you have a snow day, either too many snow days or not enough snow days, it throws a wrench into the April vacation. Why can't they just add or subtract from the last day of school? And whatever that reason is... You
can't do that because, Columbia High School graduation, the venue is booked a year in advance.
Right, but I know Dr. Osborne has told me this. There's a state requirement that you have to graduate certain days after the last day or something?
Well, you can't have school after graduation.
Right, but the graduation now is scheduled not for after the last day of school. There's a couple days in there.
No, graduation is the last day for the 12th graders, right? And it's the last day of school for everyone. At ninth graders, in the high school, the ninth graders get out a day early because they start a day early.
Right.
The ninth graders get the school to themselves for the first day. Same thing with eighth graders. So eighth grade graduation is on the same day as Columbia High School graduation, and that is the last day for those students. The rest of the kids finish the day before.
The last day on the calendar that I see says June 25th, which is still amazingly late in the year.
And so much of that is dictated also by other holidays, like if Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur...
Right, I know. We're starting late because that first week of September is very booked up. But why not have September 3rd, September 4th, have class then, and then just jump back in? No. The calendar says the 5th and the 6th are Rosh Hashanah.
Are you talking about for this year?
This year, yes. Again, in other words, there are 2 days you could have school the first week.
Would you like me to answer the question?
No, I just want to be clear that I understand what you're saying. I don't want to make it sound like I'm misleading.
One big deal is school may not start, teachers may not report before September 1st. That's in the teacher's contract.
Right.
Right, so because September 1st is a Sunday, that means the staff can't come back for their days until the 3rd and the 4th. Then we have Rosh Hashanah, which is the...
Oh, I see. The 3rd and the 4th have to be for teachers reporting.
Right. Teachers come back in, they have professional development.
And they have to have 2 days of that?
They have 2 days of that, and that's really important.
Absolutely.
An awful lot gets done in those days.
Absolutely, yes.
Right, so in prior years, sometimes those 2 days occur before Labor Day because Labor Day is later in September.
Right.
But because Labor Day is right smack at the beginning of September... Nobody's coming back until after Labor Day, then Rosh Hashanah, then the kids don't start. No, it's incredibly late.
So then this last day of school, according to the calendar I'm looking at, is June 25th. It does not say the graduation is on that day, although you're telling me it is.
Well, I don't have the calendar.
Right, and I don't mean to hit you with it off calendar. That's fine. I'm just...
What day of the week is it?
June 25th is a Wednesday.
Yes, that's graduation.
Okay, so then if you have to add days for snow days or something, you would have to add a day, and you can't reschedule the graduation because it's at the county college, Essex County College?
Correct.
Right. And why not have it somewhere else, like on campus or on the football field or something?
Because there's nowhere that really accommodates the crowd. You can't really have it in a place that's weather dependent.
That's true.
There's no indoor venue that handles that crowd. Within district facilities.
Because you graduate about how many students usually?
500 roughly.
And then they all have family and friends, and I understand.
And everybody gets four tickets, I think it is, typically. Maybe it's 3, so it's...
There's a lot going on.
It's a big crowd, yeah.
Okay, well, it's good, because I know a lot of people, including myself, have always been frustrated by that, but...
I know.
It's understandable when there's a wait. And I think I and others were very impressed, excuse me, last year, after all the Sandy closings, that the way those were handled, I think, were good, that there weren't any real big disruptions, as I recall, in terms of scheduling the days that were missed and all. And
Right. And I tell you, a lot of that, the different administrators in the different buildings, they really they jumped through hoops to figure out a way to get kids back in class somewhere, even if it wasn't in their building, because their building didn't allow, like Maplewood Middle School students, going to the high school or to South Orange Middle School.
Yes, my daughter is going to 7th grade. She was in the middle school last year, and they went to the Montrose School.
Right. So they really, worked together to come up with solutions where everybody was, reaching out and saying, classes come here, this is how we'll cover it, and it worked really well. And then it was convenient that the week when we could reopen, that we were able to go the whole week, when originally we were supposed to have, Election Day off as well as the 2 days for the Teachers Convention. But the Teachers Convention was canceled because Atlantic City had been messed up.
Right.
And so without the Teachers Convention, then we could have school.
Did the teachers didn't get the time off for the Teachers Convention, even though there was no convention? Because wasn't that in the contract? Or did the days off for the hurricane sort of equal that out?
I think the days off for the hurricane equaled that out. I'd have to go back and look at exactly how that worked, but probably, the emergency closing canceled out the planned closing. But it was just very fortunate that it came right before that week, because that did allow us to almost get back on track, and then we changed the calendar a little bit. We gave up a day in February just to make some of the schools whole. Some of the schools had already gone into the negative as far as snow days, and it was, November, so it's just kind of scary.
Okay, excellent. Well, I appreciate your time. Anything you'd like to add that people should know about related to the school board or the upcoming school year?
Well, one big thing, we've been having a lot of capital discussions. We have a district-wide, long-range capital plan.
Right. We linked to all of those. I know there's a capital plan, and there's
right. But the big one that's in the forefront right now is what to do at Columbia High School.
Yes.
We've got growing population. We've got a pool that's very old, and the decision of, are we going to build an addition that has a pool in it, or are we going to
wrote about all that.
the pool?
Where do you think that stands now? What's the most likely scenario? Is it still being...
I'm not sure there is a most likely right now.
I hear you.
This is a really hard decision. So there is actually, let me see if I can dig it up. There is an email where people can send in comments specifically about the capital plan. Hold on. That's going to start to be heavily publicized over the course of this fall. So if people want to let us know what they think about, the Columbia High School renewal, please do. The email is capitalplan, one word, at somsd.k12.nj. There'll also be a public forum specifically dedicated to the capital improvements, the overall capital plan, but specifically Columbia High School in October. That date has not been determined yet. But that's a really big thing on our horizon. So if people can pay attention to that, that'd be great.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate your time. We will brace ahead as the first day approaches, and people always have to know you can go to the website for the school district and go to the meetings and find out all about what's going online and what's going on with the school district. Thank you again, Beth Daugherty.
Okay, you're welcome. Nice talking to you.
You too.